Yes, hello, Mr. Sachin. Welcome on YourPedia platform, and let's start your RAC snap for your final DRDO interview.
Okay,
So,
thank you, sir.
Sachin, what do you know about refrigeration?
Sir, refrigeration is basically a process in which we are extracting some amount of heat from a given storage space in order to provide or maintain its temperature below the surrounding temperature.
अच्छा, refrigerants क्या होते हैं? Can you tell me some of the important desirable properties of a refrigerant?
Sir, refrigerants are the one by which, with the help of them, we are creating the refrigeration effect. And some of the important refrigerant are R11, 12, and R22, ammonia, water. And some desirable properties are like they should have a greater latent heat of vaporization, and they should have a greater conductivity, and their critical temperature should be high. For example, for water it is highest, and for ammonia it is second one, I think. And they should have a greater specific heat of vaporization and a low specific heat of vaporization for liquid.
अच्छा, there are different class of refrigerants are available to us, like class 1, class 2, and class 3 refrigerants. So,
So,
mhm, what kind of refrigerants are there in class 1 refrigerants?
sir, I don't know about such classes, but I know about that they are classifying primary or secondary type.
Primary and secondary. So,
Yes.
can you give me some example of secondary refrigerant?
Sir, ammonia and water are considered in secondary refrigerant.
Ammonia is a secondary refrigerant.
Yes, sir, we are considering it as a second ammonia and
Where
water.
where we use ammonia as a secondary refrigerant.
Yes, sir, I don't have an example, sir. Here.
Water can be a secondary refrigerant. Actually, we use brine
Yes,
as
sir.
a secondary refrigerant. Ammonia is not a secondary refrigerant. Ammonia is a primary refrigerant. Sachin. अच्छा, azeotropic क्या होता है? What are azeotropic mixtures?
Sir, azeotropes are basically the mixture of the refrigerant which behave as a pure substances,
Mhm.
and their designations are given by R500, sir, basically.
For what purpose we use these azeotropic mixtures? What advantage we get through azeotropes?
Uh, from azeotropes,
Mhm.
sir. Sorry, sir, I am not remembering right now.
You heard about minimum boiling point azeotropes or negative azeotropes, maximum boiling point azeotropes?
No, sir, I did not heard about azeotrope.
Sachin, you know about VCRS cycle?
Yes, sir, I heard about
Draw
this.
that VCRS cycle with superheating and subcooling.
Yes, sir, I can do.
Yes, go ahead, and you need to draw the pH diagram, pH flow.
Okay, sir. Sir, superheating and subcooling, sir.
Yes,
Yes, sir. Can you see, sir?
which one?
Sir,
The bottom one. Again, just put it in front of the camera. Middle one. There is
sir,
no
there are,
such. Which
there
one?
are two. Sir, this graph is for sir, subcooling, and this graph is for sir superheating.
Okay,
Basically,
okay.
I
Again, put it in front of the camera.
yes, sir.
No, no, slightly away.
So this is for subcooling, sir,
Fine, fine.
and sir, this is for superheating, sir.
Okay. Sachin, what advantage we get by superheating with superheating and subcooling?
Sir, by subcooling, we are able to increase the refrigeration effect. So basically, COP of the VCRS cycle is increased,
Hmm?
and by superheating, the COP by superheating the refrigeration effect increases, but along with that, work input to the compressor is also increases. So COPs are may increase, may decrease, but superheating will ensure the complete evaporation of the refrigerant, and it will also help us to for the compressor, because inlet to the compressor is in the superheated region. So, sir, some as we know, compressor is generally handling the gaseous phase of
Fine.
vapor.
Sachin, give me some idea how actually we superheat a refrigerant, how we carry out subcooling.
Sir, it can be done in two ways, sir.
Mm-hmm.
For example, in the evaporator section, are we are doing, and secondly, we are using a heat exchanger separately.
Mm. And what about subcooling?
Sir, same for subcooling, but if we are using separately heat exchanger, then they will not play the role in desired effect or work input to the compressor. For example, not play the role for COP calculation, sir. But if we are using condenser type and evaporator, then it will play the role.
Sachin, what do you understand by ozone depletion potential and global warming potential of the refrigerant?
Sir, ozone depletion potential basically tells us about that how harmful a refrigerant is, or it can how much damage it can cause to the ozone layer. And sir, about global warming depletion, sir, I don't have rough idea. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it should be low for a refrigerant that we are using. Ozone depletion and global warming both should be low. And sir, R123 is a refrigerant that for which both of them are low. I
Mm-hmm. Okay. तो आप मेरे को ये बताओ एयर कंडीशनिंग क्या होता है?
Air conditioning.
हम्म,
Sir, air conditioning is basically simultaneous control of temperature of air, velocity of air, relative humidity, and comfortness. Both four factor we control in air conditioning simultaneously.
what is relative humidity, Sachin, and how we measure relative humidity?
Sir, relative humidity is defined as it is the ratio of uh, vapor pressure to the vapor pressure in saturation conditions, and sir, to measure relative humidity, how to measure? Uh,
Even you have not defined completely what is relative humidity.
Sir, it can also be defined as mass of vapor to the mass of vapor under saturation conditions.
Mm-hmm.
And sir, in terms of pressure, it can define as ratio of vapor pressure to the vapor pressure under saturation conditions. And basically, sir, it tells about the uh, moisture absorbing capacity of the air. Yes, sir. Moisture absorbing capacity of the air. And sir, I don't
So
remember
I,
any
hmm,
exact device that measure the relative humidity. Not getting at this.
hmm, okay. Sachin, साइक्लोमेट्रिक चार्ट क्या होता है?
So psychrometric chart is basically it is a chart which is which is drawn on the two scales, and for example in x-axis we have a dryable temperature, and in y-axis we have specific humidity, and we are drawing the uh, variation of different properties like specific humidity, relative humidity, dew point temperature, dryable temperature, enthalpy, specific volume, and so these are we used to calculate from chart.
Mhm. Sachin, how we calculate load on a air conditioner? Like suppose in a particular region we want to install a you know, air conditioners, AC.
Yes,
So
sir.
how you are going to find out the capacity of the AC system required for that particular reason?
Sir, like theory, sir, for practically or sir, for theoretically. I
Obviously.
mean,
Mm-hmm.
sir, we have to calculate the enthalpy of the inlet and outlet of the room or the storage space that we are using, sir, basically. And to calculate enthalpies, uh, we want to know about
So
specific
why
humidity.
and how you like, because there is no such AC installed. The
Or
enthalpy inside outside, how it will be different? We are in we want to install some AC.
yes, sir, we want to install some AC there, and before
Yes.
installing, we want to calculate the.
Obviously, before installing only we need to calculate the system capacity required.
Sir, we can calculate the amount of heat that is extracted by the total number of devices that are in the storage space that are releasing the heat. Basically, for example, if there is a bulb is there and a tele and other devices are there, so we can calculate amount of heat that is liberated by them. For example, light and fan, etc, or number of persons that are occupying their spaces.
Achha, which particular refrigerant we use in a cold storage plant?
So ammonia, I think we can use.
Why we use ammonia in cold storage?
So why to use ammonia?
Why we use, yes, ammonia?
Ammonia in cold storage plant. Because sir, I think it has low melting point, low freezing point temperature. I think
Mm-hmm.
because it is around, I think, minus 77 degrees Celsius. So and high and
How
high.
much is the refrigerant code? Can you represent ammonia with its refrigerant code?
Sir, ammonia with.
Refrigerant code.
Sir, I am not getting, sir. I don't know, sir,
You know,
about
we
ammonia.
represent different refrigerants with some code.
Yes, sir. Achha, code. Okay. Ammonia. Sir, ammonia is sir, R717. R717.
R717.
Yes, sir. Because it is inorganic compound. So we are using 700 plus molecular weight of ammonia for its designation, sir.
अच्छा, आप मेरे को कैस्केडिंग के बारे में बता सकते हो सचिन? Would you understand by cascade system? How it works?
Sir, cascade system is basically using two cycles in a series. So basically, what we are doing here, we are extracting some amount of heat from a space, and we are rejecting the heat across the condenser of the first cycle, and we
Mm-hmm.
are using that heat for the second cycle. Or sir, basically, it is used to create a low temperature generally. Uh, for example. Sir, I don't remember the exact example of cascading, but it is used to create a low temperature.
हम्म, ठीक है।
Sir, and
सचिन, मेरा लास्ट क्वेश्चन है आपसे।
yes, sir.
ये रूम सेंसिबल हीट फैक्टर क्या होता है? व्हाट यू अंडरस्टैंड बाय रूम सेंसिबल हीट फैक्टर?
Sir, it can be defined as it is the ratio of room sensible heat to the room total heat. That is the room sensible heat plus room latent heat. It is a ratio, sir, and it will tell us about that how much fraction is the room sensible heat is considering of the total heat. So basically, sir, in AC there are two types of heat. In the first one, the temperature is varying. So, sir, that is room sensible heat, and that latent heat, the temperature is
अच्छा
constant. It is
सचिन,
of phase.
suppose on cyclometric chart, if you will draw some room sensible heat factor line and grand sensible heat factor line. So
Room sensible heat.
the point where both lines are going to meet, that point is going to represent what that point is going to represent.
Room sensible heat and grand sensible heat point lines.
Mm-hmm.
Sir, wait. Room sensible heat. Sir, it is sir inlet of the storage space basically. For if we draw it on a psychometry chart,
Mm-hmm.
then sir it is a inlet of the room or the storage space basically. I can show you by the diagram, sir. Because sir it can vary, sir. For example, this is a case I have taken out, and for this case, this the outside air, this is inside air, and they are meeting at point 1. So sir, basically 0 to 1 room sensible heat there, and from 1 set to that is gram sensible heat factor is there, so they are meeting at a point 1.
Okay. Yes, Sachin. I think now I can provide you the feedback
Okay, thank you, sir.
that represent the supply air condition, but the point you are representing, the room sensible heat factor line, that is not looking right. Okay. But the point you mentioned, that is right. You can check. Azeotropes, they are the mixture
Yes, sir. Mixture
of
of
pure
refrigerant.
substances, and we use them a lot as a refrigerant. थोड़ा इसके बारे में देखना, the categorization of azeotropes.
Yes, sir.
Ferrone, chlorofluorocarbon, those are known as class 1 refrigerants. Okay, those are already phased out.
Class 1.
Hydrochlorofluoro HFSC, HFFC. Okay, those are known as hydrochlorofluoro HCFC. Okay, those are known
It's,
as, mostly they are known as second class 2 refrigerant. The refrigerant which we are nowadays using, okay,
yes, sir.
those are the low pressure class 3 refrigerants.
Yes, sir. I will search about class 1, class
So
2,
there
and
are
class
different, segregation, the class of refrigerants we use. The curve which we represent on pH or TS plot, that is also for a particular specific class of refrigerant. The
2.
curve
Okay.
which generally we draw on PV diagram, TS diagram, those are for class 1 refrigerant. We are not using class 1 refrigerants. That is an important point you need to understand. Like, suppose if you want to draw a, BCRS cycle on PV diagram, or maybe on TS diagram, or maybe on pH diagram, so some specific dome shape we get on PV, pH, and TS.
Yes, sir.
That dome shape which generally we refer, that is for type 1 refrigerant, class 1 refrigerant. For
But sir,
class
we are
3
not.
refrigerant, the dome shape is going to change.
Okay, sir.
Are you getting
I
why actually why that is important? Because for example, you are drawing some, someone is asking about the working of VCRS,
yes, sir.
maybe some air conditioner which we are having at our homes. The refrigerant which we use is R22.
Yes, sir.
For
R22.
R22, the dome shape will be different. Are you getting?
Okay.
And if
Okay.
dome shape is different, you will not be in a position to draw exactly the VCRS cycle diagram, maybe on PHTS, or maybe PV plot. Are you getting, Sachin?
Yes, sir.
So only that thing you need to know. Okay, the dome shape which usually we draw, those are for type 1 refrigerant, because they are, they we use them a lot. Like, but nowadays they are phased out due to their higher ozone depletion potential. CFCs,
Okay.
chlorofluorocarbon. Are you getting,
Okay,
Sachin?
sir. Sir, I will search about it.
Ah, good.
But I got the point, sir.
Mm-hmm. Fine. Baki, the cycle you have drawn correctly. The superheating, subcooling, what are the advantages? Subcooling, how we can carry out? We can carry out subcooling by, spraying some water over the condenser. We can carry
Okay.
out subcooling by increasing the size of the condenser. By
Yes, sir.
increasing the size of condenser, we can carry out subcooling by attaching some liquid suction heat exchanger. So liquid suction heat exchanger is a one way, okay, of carrying out subcooling as well as superheating. But other than that, we are having options of spraying water, maybe some kind of cooling tower we can use, okay,
Yes, sir.
or by increasing the size of condenser. Similarly, superheating we can carry out by some liquid suction heat exchanger, okay.
Yes.
Superheating, if it is carrying out, if we are carrying out in the evaporator by increasing the size of the evaporator. For example, if you increase the size of evaporator, superheating will take place in the evaporator itself. So that is going to increase the refrigeration effect, because if superheating is taking place in the evaporator, only then we will get the increase in refrigeration effect. Otherwise, if
Yes,
superheating is taking place outside the evaporator, maybe due to liquid suction heat exchanger, that is not going to increase the refrigeration.
yes,
Fine?
sir, that is. But sir, for ammonia, its COP will decrease if we are using it in evaporators.
Yes, yes. For
I,
ammonia, because actually with superheating, if we will talk about only superheating, with superheating, if we will consider superheating in the evaporator, so refrigeration effect is increasing. But with
yes, sir.
superheating, always compressor work also increases.
Yes, sir.
Because
Work.
when we are carrying out superheating, the temperature inlet to the
Yes,
compressor
sir.
is also going to increase.
Yes, sir.
And due to the increase in inlet temperature of the compressor, the specific volume of the refrigerant which is entering into the compressor, that is also going to increase. So what you need
Yes,
to
sir.
understand, the compressor work is a function of the inlet temperature. It is
Yes,
a
sir.
function of the pressure ratio. So as the inlet temperature to the compressor is going to increase, its work will also increase. So with superheating, the work also increases, refrigeration effect also increases. So the net
Yes,
effect, maybe increase in COP or maybe decrease, that depends on the type of refrigerant.
yes, sir. I searched
So
about
very
it.
correctly you mentioned, for ammonia, the COP is going to decrease with superheating. So
Yes,
we generally, okay, we don't carry out. We are not interested in carrying out the superheating for ammonia. But if you talk about R11, R12, like Ferrion series of refrigerant, so
yes,
for
sir.
both these refrigerants with superheating, their COP increases. So actually,
Yes,
with superheating, COP can increase or decrease. It depends on the type of refrigerant. But with subcooling, always the COP is going to increase, because subcooling on compressor work there will be no such effect,
sir.
whereas
Only
refrigeration
refrigeration
effect is
of.
always going to increase.
Yes, sir.
चलो बाकी ये थोड़ा कैस्केड देख लो. कैस्केड you have not answered, Sachin, how a cascade system works. Very effectively you have not answered the working of cascade system. I think I asked you that question, huh?
Yes, sir. You asked me that how what is cascading and how it work.
Hmm.
But sir, I don't know the real examples of the cascading.
Yes, so go through that. The low temperature, how we produce low temperature with refrigeration. Okay, cascade system, multi-stage system. Okay, have some more understanding about that. Next time, again, if you join, I will ask you some more, question from this subject.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
एक चीज और ध्यान रखनी है.
Yes,
It is
sir.
good to have some confidence, clarity, but जहाँ पे smile required है वहीं पे करना है.
Okay,
ठीक
sir.
है. So if you are thinking some question, then very small little bit smile is good. ज्यादा
Okay.
होगी तो फिर वो इरिटेट कर सकती है इंटरव्यूअर को. आर यू गेटिंग, सचिन?
Okay, sir. I will take care of it.
हाँ. ओके सचिन, गुड लक.
Thank you, sir.